If you're focused on your purpose, it's gonna bless everything around it. Not your paycheck, your purpose. Go all in for what it is that you know you're supposed to do. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Those kids can't eat your excuses for lunch. You gotta make a plan, and then you gotta go after it.
Welcome back to the podcast. I started this podcast as a way to help Black men in all aspects of our lives. Studies show on average we lose 2.8 years of our life when we're under heavy stress. And I think we can gain those 2.8 years back if we express ourselves healthily. Stick with me as I interview therapists, doctors, advocates, activists, and friends about how we can be better as Black men and as a Black community. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok, you'll definitely want to do that. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. We're back with another episode, y'all. We're here with JR. JR, first of all, can you tell the people who you are, what it is that you do?
I'm just an ordinary man trying to do extraordinary things. My background is I was an educator for 10 years. I taught high school math, algebra, and geometry. I played arena football, and now I'm a content creator full-time, and I enjoy what I do with my kids.
You wear many hats, bro. Right? Like, that's to say the least. But I think you and I will both agree that one of your most important hats is being a father, right? And so I want to ask you, how did your experiences with your own parents shape your commitment to being a present father?
I think that was really the foundation that started me wanting to be a great father. Was simply my father was incarcerated for 17 years. Mm-hmm. So for me, I got a little bit of my father at the beginning up until 4 years old. And then I got a little bit of my father right in middle school. And then he wasn't there due to incarceration.
Okay.
And we still had a solid relationship as far as, communication wise. So that's what really sparked me wanting to be a great father, was that dynamic with my dad. And then I also got to see the late Sean Taylor be a father to his daughter. And that was just phenomenal to me. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I really want to do that. I want to impact a young human being that I helped create,
right,
and be there consistently and show up for them fully and see what they can become in this world. So just early on with my parents, just seeing that they did the best that they could from what their parents gave to them. And I just want to be able to move that marker the extra mile.
And so what was your relationship like with your mom around that time? Was your mom around? I know you said your dad was incarcerated. So were you like in a single parent household with your mom, or were you living with grandparents? What was that looking like?
I lived with my mom, a single parent household. And fortunately, she had a long-term boyfriend at one time that I would call my stepdad. Okay. And he stepped in and really was, a helpful father figure for about 5 years. He was real supportive of me playing sports and just becoming a man, learning to shoot a gun and talking about girls, or just understanding what it looked like to be a man. And those were important years after I was becoming a teen. But for the most part, my mom was there. She was supportive. And just being able to have a strong, praying Black woman was very helpful in that situation. And she did her best to put me in environments where I was around great men, whether it was church or being able to play sports and have those types of men around me. That really helped.
Yeah. How important would you say it is for when you come from a situation like yours where your dad wasn't necessarily in the house? How important is it for you to still have men around you, strong male figures? What did that do for you growing up?
I believe that was key to me becoming who I am today. Having those strong men around me, whether it was youth pastors going to church, whether it was my football coaches early on, or even uncles or cousins that were older, all of those people, they helped shape who I am today. And had any of them not been there, I wouldn't be the same person.
Right. And you come from a unique situation too, because I feel like a lot of times when a father is either out of not in the home, unfortunately for us, a lot of times it could lead to just a single parent household straight up, and there's no stepdad, there's no uncles or youth pastors or whatever the case may be. And so I wanted to ask you, because you come from that situation, what were some of the lessons that you took away? And it would be really dope if you could do like maybe a lesson per person, right? We could maybe do your mom and then your stepdad and your pops, right? Like what were some of the things that they instilled in you that you kind of try to instill in your children or you took away from like your interaction with them that's helped you to be who you are today?
Well, starting off with my mom, she's always been a person of faith, and she always, believed in what we couldn't see.
Right.
She's one of those people that would speak things into existence. And she also believed that, faith without works is dead. So she made sure that we did the work to put ourselves in the opportunity situations for which we wanted to be in.
Right.
And then when I turned to my dad, he had that hustle mentality, and it was just passed on, and I think I developed my habits that led into entrepreneurship from my dad.
Right.
And just being really, really relentless on goals and dreams and driven, that really came from my dad. As far as some of my older cousins, just seeing them obtain certain things, like maybe it was high school. I always thought, if they could finish high school, like high school is gonna be simple.
Right.
So there was kind of some of those things. And they allowed me to be around them and see them doing certain things, but also telling me not to do them.
Right.
And I know a lot of people say, well, that's the wrong way, because if they see you doing it, then they're going to want to do it. But I always had this strong urge to be different. And when my cousins told me certain things like, you don't need to smoke or you don't need to drink, I took heed of that. I've never smoked. I don't drink. Like, I don't do any of those things. And I believe it's funny because my dad never smoked or drank, and I didn't even know that. Growing up, I had never asked him those questions until I got older. He's like, nah, I never did that.
Really?
So it was real surprising to me that there were certain traits that I have of my dad, and those are really the foundational things that I got from them. And then the guy who I call my stepdad, he really was the one who really showed me like what it was to work.
Right.
Like really get that extra work. So, my whole slogan has been extra mile. Like that's the lifestyle that I live. Like I always go the extra mile. If my coaches told me to do 10 curls, I would do 15. If they told us, the workout was an hour and 30 minutes, I go give me an extra 30 minutes in. And that was instilled in me from my stepdad, because he told me like, this is what it's going to take. Like, you're not going to always be the biggest. You're not always going to be the fastest, but you can be the hardest worker.
Right.
That's something you got control of. So those are some foundational skills that were developed from conversations and just being around those people.
Right. And that's dope, bro, because I feel like, man, like I said, there's some folks that just may come from a similar background but don't have the same story. Didn't have maybe a stepdad, or maybe weren't able to see their dad when if he was incarcerated, or maybe he just was absent, right? And so I'm trying to speak to these folks, and I wanted to ask you specifically, what would you say to them, those individuals that may have come from that background that are now parents, if we're speaking about Black men, they're now fathers, trying to figure out fatherhood, not really having that role model. How do they build a foundation to then help to raise the kids that they have?
I think, first of all, understanding that it really does take a village to raise a child.
Right.
And when you look at it in that aspect, you'll start wanting to put your kids in a better environment. So you might need to move to a different neighborhood. You might need to get some better friends, because if my best friend isn't someone who I would trust my son around, then why would I be around them?
Right.
And I know that my kids can develop and learn things from my best friends. And at the same token, whether it's coaches, whether it's teachers, you need to get your kids in those types of environments where they can, really glean from what they're learning and what they're getting as far as information and role models. And then on their part, as a Black father, man, you got to realize you got to press the reset button. You got to really go ahead and unlearn and relearn what it is to be a man, what it is to be vulnerable, what it is to actually show up and show out for your kid in the aspect of being there, not just providing, but being there. And I know it's hard for a lot of people because they don't live that entrepreneurial lifestyle, but I built my life around my kids. I didn't make an excuse. I was a teacher for 10 years and I got tired of dropping my kids off to daycare early in the morning and going to teach some other kids. And I figured it out. When you get pissed off for greatness, like Ray Lewis said, you're going to be great. There's nothing that can stop us. It's something inside of us that does not allow us to be stopped when we truly put our mind to it. So I would say to that other dad, write it down, make it clear, and then go after it. One by one. You got to have some goals. If you don't have any goals or standards for you as a father, then you're just going to be flying by the seat of your pants. And before you know it, their childhood is over.
Right.
So for my kids, I developed a plan for them before they were ever born.
I could tell you've been in some huddles. I can tell you've been in some huddles and some locker rooms before a big game. Like, I know you done gave some speeches or something before, bro. Now, that was really dope, bro. I really enjoyed that, man. Like, you said a lot. I want to touch on a few different things that you said, bro, that I think are really important. You talked about providing versus being there. Can you break that down? Like, what does that mean? Because for some folks, they think that's the same.
There's a lot of people that I've encountered that have told me that they had great providers as parents or as fathers, and they just weren't present. So when you're providing, you're giving the resources that are necessary for your child to eat, sleep, and be comfortable. But being present allows you to push your child to greatness and give them the parameters to grow into what they need to. I'll give you an example. So if you took a shark and you put it into a little small tank, that shark's going to grow like only 6 to 8 inches. But if you take that shark and you put it in the ocean, it can grow 6 to 8 feet. So it's the same thing with the father. The father is actually what's surrounding that child. And if the father actually opens up his arms, he's the ocean now.
Right.
He's allowing them to grow into something great because they have something to come inside of. Otherwise, they're in this little small ecosystem that you've left them to kind of figure it out on their own. Because with just the mother in the home, there's a lot of things that don't get taught to the kids. A lot of times the mothers are not able to give the same discipline. And when I say give the same discipline, I've noticed it could just be a father look at his child, not say a word, and that child knows they need to straighten up. There's a different energy when a man is in the home. A woman by nature, she's a nurturer. So she's gonna coddle the kid in some way, shape, or form, whether she wants to admit it or not. But when you have that sternness from your father and that different type of love, it doesn't always have to be a tough love, but there's a different type of love. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's a different type of love that I experience from male figures opposed to my female family members. And I sense that with my kids. They're getting that and they're understanding that. And when you're present in that home, they kind of want to just like get that reassurance from their father. That they're here and they're doing what they need to be doing at that time and that they're meeting the expectations of their last name. Last time I checked, if you're married and you claim that child, they get the father's last name. And there's a reason behind that for me.
Explain that, yeah.
I feel like it's the father's legacy that he's pushing through another human being. And I know there's a lot of women that give pushback on that and they're like, the father, he ain't this, he ain't that. But the men is who I'm talking about. The men that step up to the plate, that, really take on that role as being a father. Like that's their legacy. Whether it's a little girl or a little boy, they're pushing through them. And I know a lot of people, they're like, are you trying to live through your kid? Are you trying to do this? Are you trying to do that? And what I say to that stigma that's out there about, the fathers that put their kids in sports and push them, and people say, that's because they never made it. The only person on this earth that wants to see you be better than them truly is your father. That's the only person. So why wouldn't a father position his child in something that they were mediocre average or good at and try to push them to excellence.
Right. That's not a knock to say that.
That's not a knock.
Yeah.
The same way, if a father, we don't hear other cultures saying, oh, he trying to live through his kid, when Donald Trump's dad gave him a small loan of $1 million to get started in business. No one said, oh, he trying to live through his kid. He trying to do. But in our culture, it's seen as taboo for a man who didn't make it in sports to push his kid to excellence. It's taboo.
There's actually nothing wrong with that. And you do see that sometimes where people are like trying to shun or like embarrass or like guilt trip dads for pushing their children to do things that they know that they can do, that they are capable of doing, like to build skills and do things that are like that have adversity attached to them, man. I think a lot of what you mentioned, it reminds me, or like what I was thinking about when you were talking about like having both the parents in the home and having different energies from the mother and the father. What I was thinking about in that situation is like affirming and assertiveness, right? Because I feel like a mom, obviously nurturing, and she's going to be very affirming. Not to say that a father can't be as well, right? She's going to be very affirming. She's going to be like, okay, when you do well, like, okay, you know you did well. You're going to know that from your mom, right? Your dad is going to be the one that's assertive with you, communicating, you know, what you could be doing, right? Like, yo, you did well. I'm going to affirm you. You did great. Here's where we can go from here. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And it speaks to that legacy. And I feel like having both of those things, both of those in the home is important. And again, both parents should be doing both, but I think both parents are more skilled in one or the other, right? And so having both parents at home gives you that dynamic where you're able to get the best of both worlds when it comes to that assertiveness for your dad and then that, you know, that affirmation from your mom. So like, I really love the fact that you said that. I think a lot of what you talk about really hits home, and it makes me think about like, you have a lot of like intention behind the way you parent and the things that you think about. And so I wanted to talk to you about that, like parenting with purpose. What does that mean to you? And like, how do people start to do that? Because you also talked about developing a plan for your family. Like, I want you to get into all that as well. Like, I feel like a lot of us we just be out here, just do whatever. Then we have, you know, we're pregnant, then baby shower, that we just kind of leap into it without even knowing. Right. And like, we're transitioning into something that's like a really big life change, but we have no idea how to do that. So I want you to break down, like, how did you start navigating that in a way that was intentional?
So for me, I believe that success always leaves clues. So I studied other great men that had done great things as a father. You know, I looked at King Richard.
Okay.
And I saw what he did with Venus and Serena and his girls. And then even though Floyd Mayweather's dad may have been on some things, he did a great job creating, you know, that financial freedom for not just his son, but his son has some different type of legacy resources for his kids. So people like that, first of all, I start studying, you know, and I believe that people don't do enough time gathering information so that they can make valid decisions on what they want to develop in their kids and in their life, and what they want to go on in their homes. Because even the ones that didn't show up great as fathers, rather than, you know, just pushing their kid to be great, you can still learn something from that. So for me, I looked at those things. I'm like, okay, I like this from this person. I like the way this person did this. I like the way this person did that. And I start, you know, putting them all into play. I'm like, okay, I want this to happen like this, and I want these moves to be, you know, like this. So for my kids to be successful and have different options, I also took away some options. And I think there's so many parents that give their kids too many choices. When you give your kids too many choices early on, you choke their dreams.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
If early on, I allow my kids to pretty much eat whatever they want, go to bed when they get tired. There's no real routine to anything that they're doing. There's no real goals each day of what they're trying to accomplish. And it's okay for them to just learn what's going on in their daycares, learn what's going on in the schools, and then let them go play on an iPad or let them go watch TV or go play outside, just leave me alone type thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you do those things and you give them so many choices, later on in life, they won't have a lot of choices on where they want to live, what they want to drive,
Right.
what kind of person they want to marry, what kind of faith they decide to go with. They won't have the same type of choices that the ones who had more of a structured upbringing will have. Because when you look at the people that you would say, man, they have a really good life.
Yeah.
Early on, they didn't have a lot of choices. It's real simple. Tiger Woods wasn't going to all of his friends' birthday parties.
Right.
I guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger Woods wasn't going to all of the swimming camps and, just hanging out and staying up all night. Michael Jordan, he wasn't doing all of those things.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather said he wasn't even eating candy as a kid. Michael Jackson, you know how Joe Jackson had them. That was the ultimate structured discipline, and he might have went a little too far in certain areas.
Right.
But look at the results. You can't argue with them. So you have to ask yourself as a parent, what kind of results am I willing to also go after, regardless of what it looks like to everybody else? Because I think a lot of people get caught up in, well, if I go after this way, how is that going to look to everybody else? I'm going to just kind of do it. They're not all in. And I believe when you have a plan, it allows you to be all in. It puts you in the driver's seat to be all in and go that extra mile. But if you don't have a plan, how am I going to ever get to a certain standard? If I don't have a plan, it's an accident if I get to a certain standard. So being purposeful with my parenting is something that I really push, because I talk to my kids about affirmations and I talk to my kids about who they are, that inner voice. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, my daughter is the one who assured that for me. She's 7 years old now, but when she was about 3 years old, she's very good at articulating herself. She was about 3 years old. She went to daycare, and we have certain affirmations that we say in the morning. And I guess they were playing a game, and the kid must have tagged her, and then they were racing. And she said, she told herself, I'm great. I got to win. I'm great. And she was like, Dad, I just ran even faster. I dropped my head and I was running. And this is in little kid terms. So she was like, I was like this and I was running fast and I believed in myself. And that right there just did everything for me. And just really, as a parent, it assured me that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing,
Right.
and that I was helping them. Because the funny joke is, and the ongoing joke with my brothers and sisters is, he's the military one. He got them structured, and they laugh because if my son and my daughter are going back and forth about who should have the remote or something like this, I'm like, hey, push-ups. And there's no discussion back and forth. Oh, but I don't negotiate. You got push-ups, handle your business. And I believe that when they see that, they're like, wow, it's a shock to them, and they try to laugh it off. But I know in the back of their mind, they're thinking like, man, I wish I could have done these things with my kids, because my kids are the youngest of the bunch. There's about 11 of them. And there's one that is up under my two kids. And then my youngest, my baby boy, he's obviously the youngest. But they're the youngest of about 10 of them. So I also got to learn from being an uncle. So I believe that as a parent, when you're creating that plan, you look at the parenting around you. Take heed to what you see. And if they're always having to go to school and sit down with the teachers and talk about behavior, look at what they're doing. If they're always eating candy, they're always watching stuff they don't have no business, if they're always with people that they shouldn't be with, these are things you need to put in your plan. Hey, I need to monitor what my kids eat, what my kids watch. Maybe I need to sit down. When I turn on the TV, I'm usually sitting down with my kids watching TV. When I'm not there to watch TV, guess what they're doing? Reading, playing with toys, push-ups, going to get some hits. Because I believe when you give them too many choices, again, you're going to choke their dreams. And when I say choke their dreams, I mean you're choking the life out of it. You don't give it an opportunity to develop. You don't give it an opportunity to be obtainable, because there's a certain window for every type of dream. If you want to be a doctor, at a certain point in life, you start to see, I really don't have the academic foundation and the study habits that are necessary to become what I'm saying I want to become. Right. And I also don't have the resilience to fight through. That's what a lot of people don't develop, is the grit. There's a grit to be great.
Right.
If you don't got that grit, you can't be great. Because adversity shows up at everybody's front door. Everybody's front door.
All right, I'm interrupting this podcast episode to let you guys know to leave a review on the podcast. Please, 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 if you are listening to this episode and you're finding value in this episode, you're enjoying the conversation, or you've enjoyed a previous episode or conversation, and it's safe to operate your phone right now, please leave us a review. Your review is a free and easy way to support us, and it helps us reach more people like you. We're on a mission to build a stronger, more connected Black community, starting with Black men. And you can help us on that mission by taking a minute out of your day to leave a review. Your review helps us generate more listeners, which in turn generates more revenue, allowing us to expand the platform even further. So please take a few seconds out of your day. I know you're busy. I understand. I know you're doing a lot, but it will help us greatly if you would just take a few seconds out of your day to leave a review right now. Did you leave a review yet? All right, let's get back to the episode.
Man, nah, you are spitting in here, bro. Like, I'm literally taking mental notes, bro. I am very, very inspired by the things you're saying about parenting, bro. Like, for real, man. Like, I'm really taking mental notes. I saw this post online about like how fathers have so much more to do with like the genetic makeup of children than we think we do, and how like in certain cultures before they have a child that they try to conceive, like fathers especially, but both parents will do like a fast of some sorts where they're not eating certain things, they're not doing certain things, they're just like being very, very intentional about what they do, what they put into their body, exercise and all that kind of stuff, because they know they're about to try and conceive a child. And it just kind of reminds me of what you talked about with like your family plan, like just being really intentional, even from before you have a child, to make sure that when you have a child, like everything is set up the right way, man. Like, so I'm really inspired by the things you're saying. And what I want to ask you is like, what are some of the sections or things that you had in your family plan? Like, assume like this is someone you're talking to that has no idea like what they want to do when it comes to like being a father. What are some of the things that you would tell them to like include in their family plan and make sure that they have a well-rounded view?
So in that family plan, I'm glad that you touched upon the health of the parents. So that was something early on, picking a partner that took care of themselves, ate well, exercised, and was ready to conceive a child, a healthy child. And then understanding, you know, do I want certain things in my child at birth? And I'll leave that at that. But, you know, that's a topic for another day. But making sure that you understand what you're doing with that child. So from day one, I'm already saying, okay, well, I want to make sure that the child sleeps with me and the mom, gets to know us first. They're not just put off to some daycare, you know, at 1 month old,
Right.
that they have some time to actually learn who their parents are, the smell, the sound, the routine. And I always wanted my kids to see me being great. So early on, my son, he's the oldest, my 9-year-old. I made sure in my plan, my faith, I wanted my son to see me praying. I wanted my son to see me reading my Bible. I wanted my son, and I'm talking about from birth. I'm not talking about once he's 5 years old, now he knows what I'm doing. No, from birth. When my son was born, I'll give you this. My son was born, you know, the doctor leaves, and they come back a little bit later after, everything calms down. I still needed to get my push-ups in. I was doing 500 push-ups every day. The doctor comes in and he almost hits me with the door because I was close to the door. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What are you doing on the floor?" I'm like, "Oh, I was finishing up my push-up." So being consistent, no matter what, was something that I developed. I was also creating a motivational video every single day. And that was a part of my plan because one day, no matter who you are, you won't be here anymore.
Right.
And I need my kids to still hear my voice. I was giving it to the world, but I was giving it to my baby girl. I was giving it to the world, but I was giving it to my baby boy. So that information lives on the internet forever.
Right.
So there was certain things that I was doing so that if anything was to happen to me before they had a chance to truly understand what the plan was,
They already knew.
they already had some things out there for them.
Right.
I wrote a book on time management so my kids would have that information that I acquired.
Right.
So you should be leaving footprints in the sand for your kids. That should be a part of your plan is, okay, if they never get a chance to have a conversation with me, who would I be to them? How can I make sure that they know who I am and what I expected of them? So if you never get on a camera, if you never write a book, if you never take notes, if you never set up a plan, it's not possible.
Right.
So that was a part of my plan, to write a book, to get on national stages, to make sure that I was making the videos every day, to make sure that I was consistent with the push-ups every day. So now when my kids got old enough, they were 2, 3 years old. Now they were doing the push-ups. They were praying. So they had the faith. They had the physical. Now it was time for the mental side of things. So in my plan, I wrote down academically. I was an educator for 10 years and I realized that a lot of kids struggle with why. When I say why is 2 + 2 4? They don't understand the why. So when you understand the why, you can do anyhow. So I started developing a plan on making sure when I'm teaching my kids how to add and subtract, how to multiply and divide, I'm telling them why and making sure they could tell me why. So when I'm quizzing my daughter on the days that we're going to school and I'm asking her questions like, what's 19 minus 5? What's 219 minus 5? And asking her why. Why is the difference this? Why is there an extra number here? What are the place values? I'm asking her why. I'm not just getting an answer. Then in my plan, I'm also looking at, okay, what future would I like my kids to have? I would like my kids to be able to go out and purchase whatever house they want, have whatever car they want. So therefore, my kids would need to be wealthy. So therefore, I have to pick a career where they could end up wealthy. I said, okay, what do I have the most expertise in? I played sports. I was a track coach before my kids were born. For 6 years at the high school level, I was a football coach as well. But I also played football from the age of 8 to 28. So I said, these are things that I was really good at. And then I took it a step further and I said, what stopped me from making it to where I could make millions of dollars? Right. I got almost there. I tried out for the Dolphins and the Raiders. I played arena ball, but I was at that door. I was as far as I could go. And I said, okay, height. Right? If I was taller playing receiver, might have had a real chance.
Right.
Okay. So I can't change their height, but I know if I make sure in my plan they get adequate sleep. I'm big on sleep. What they're eating. I wasn't a great eater early on. Yeah, I like fruits and vegetables, certain ones, but I didn't understand what I was doing. And my parents didn't have a plan for me to eat what I needed to be eating. So I was always a smaller kid. Okay, we're going to get that one taken care of. All right. What about as far as, your strength? Okay, I was always strong because I did push-ups. Okay, we're going to put that in the plan. So I went through that and I developed it and I came out with Okay, my son's gonna play baseball.
Okay.
And people like, but you didn't play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I had a 10th grader in my classroom that became a first round draft pick.
Okay.
So I have access
Right.
to someone who made it. My best friend played football and baseball at the University of Miami. Ended up playing in the NFL. Shout out Philip Buchanan. So I have access. And I started also looking at other areas. Where do I have access? My daughter, she's going to play tennis and run track. Now, the other things are to develop those skills. They both run track. They're both going to play basketball. They're both going to be taught 2 years ahead in school early on. Right now, I teach my kids 2 years ahead. When they go and get tested, they always score 2 grade levels above because of what I'm giving them at home. So at home, it's pretty simple. And I always say for $1, you can have a scholar. I go to the Dollar Tree.
Okay.
That's where I could find these books. And I noticed that they had grade levels. First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, right? It's pretty simple for a parent. If your child is going to kindergarten, get them the first grade book. If your child is going to second grade, get them the third grade book. Once they master the third grade information, you move on to fourth grade. So I've been putting the information in front of them, and kids are far more capable than a lot of parents give them credit for. And once you get that understanding, and I got a lot of it from teaching for 10 years, I'm like, wow, these kids can really go a lot higher than what we think they can, but we're not putting the carrot high enough for them to go chase. So in my plan, how can I push them? What can I do on a daily to maximize those 24 hours that we get? Because I don't care if you're Beyonce or you're the bum up under the bridge, you get 24 hours. You don't get 25, you don't get 27. You can't buy no more, you can't borrow no more. 24. So for me, I started developing my plan down to the day. What does a day look like? So if you can get your plan in the big picture, health-wise, faith-wise, physicality-wise, education-wise, in the big picture, what you want them to accomplish, then you can start filling in. And there's something that I didn't have. Chat GPT, people. You can go in there, you can type in Chat GPT. I would like my child to become a doctor when they are 26 years old, and they'll give you a plan.
That's a fact. That's very true. Yeah.
I didn't have that. I was doing this off of, the strength.
Right.
I was figuring it out. But now you have this tool that you need to use. So I said all that to say this. Use Chat GPT. Figure out what it is that you want your child to do in those areas. Make sure you put all of the areas you want. Faith, what they're eating health-wise, physical-wise, education-wise, and the big picture. What do you want them to accomplish? And I believe so many people fear making that choice for their kid. But you're going to make the choice of them going to school every day. They hate school. They might like their friends at school, but they don't like being in a situation where they're away from their parents all day. They're having to sit there and listen to someone talk about some information that they probably don't like. There's no way that they love school. So if you love your child, you should help them figure out a way to utilize school. That's my spiel about, really developing the plan is, really hitting all of the components, those main components that I spoke of, and using Chat GPT or other resources that can help you break down a true plan. And Chat GPT can do it in like 15 seconds.
Nah,
you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's a fact. Nah, bro, we got a tradition on this podcast. When somebody does what you just did, which is like spit facts, we just give it a second, bro. Give it a second because everybody's listening. And I feel like, bro, you just said so much, bro. And I really don't want to just dive into the next thing. I want people to really take in what you said and like write notes or whatever the case may be, whatever they doing. Because, bro, that is really fire. Like what you talked about, the way I think about it is you developed a holistic plan, like a holistic blueprint for how you would approach parenting your kids from spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social, and the financial, right? Like those 6 different aspects. And so like, if they take what you said, look at what they want their kids to do, right? And combine that into a holistic plan, like golden. Honestly, golden, bro. Like, so really, man, shout out to you, bro. Shout out to you.
And
like,
just to kind of bring that home for them,
yeah.
when you get ready to build a house, you get your blueprint and then you build your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Before you conceive the child,
Right.
you got to have your blueprint. Get your blueprint, build your foundation, use bricks,
Right.
and build.
Right. Man.
And make sure you got somebody that ain't taking the bricks
And stashing them somewhere else.
stashing them somewhere else instead of helping you build.
Oh, nah. Nah, but that's part of the plan. You picked the right partner. That's a big part. That's a big part of the plan, yeah.
And I got a second chance at that. So
Word.
that's why I'm speaking to that part. It's funny, but man, you don't really know who you have until kids are involved. And so just a little side note on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know single mothers get a real stigma out there in the dating market.
Yeah.
But I believe if you find a woman with a child, you can see how she is as a parent. You kind of get a cheat code. So my last child, shout out to his mother, which is my fiance. She had a son already. So I watched her as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, she can do what I would want from a mother with my child. So we had a child together.
Right.
And I believe that's the dynamics that people are skipping over. And a lot of times you say, well, you know, if I get a woman that doesn't have any kids, I can teach her or this or that. She's probably going to be mostly like her mother. So now you got to figure out how was her mother. And that takes research. And a lot of people don't like research.
Oftentimes on social media, we hear the complete opposite. Like we hear fellas talking about, she got a child, you got to run, or I'm not dealing with it, whatever the case may be. And what your perspective is no, if she has a child, that's actually an opportunity for you to learn more about the type of mother she could potentially be for the child that you guys could potentially have. And I haven't heard anybody on social media say that. So we definitely gonna post that and just let the brothers know, like, yo, bro, there's nothing wrong with a single mom. Honestly, I know at least, I know a few single moms that I'm not gonna lie, like they're great women. You know, like
getting passed over because they have a child instead of being put to the front because of what type of mother they are to that child. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but we want to have kids because it's in us, most men, to continue our legacy.
Right.
And leave our mark on this world. But if you don't have the right partner, it makes it very difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult.
Right.
Because I don't believe in big words that are just thrown around like impossible. Anything is possible. They put too many letters on there. Extra, I am possible.
For sure.
You know, it's just a stigma that's out there that if you really talk to men who have vetted women that have children or a child, in my situation, I was willing to have a woman with one child. You can ask yourself what you're willing to have. You don't have to pick the woman with 7 kids. I'm telling you can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, if she got 7 kids and all 7 of her kids are entrepreneurs and they all millionaires or this or that, now what you gonna say?
Right.
You know, so
yeah, it's a whole different story.
It all comes down to understanding rather than just taking the general knowledge.
Right.
Because there's a lot of general knowledge that is bull crap.
Right. Nah, there's also a lot of nuance, right? Like everybody's situation is different. The children, like how does their upbringing look like? Like what's happening in the home? Is she good? Like there's a lot of nuance to it. You can't, like for me personally, I guess everybody has their own preferences, right? But if I was in the dating market, I wouldn't be passing up single moms at this age because I'm like, yo, bro, like at the end of the day, that's a person. There is a lot that I don't know about. Just because I know about this one thing doesn't mean that that's it. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like for a lot of men, it's probably like a pride and ego thing, not wanting to take care of somebody else's child, and then also not wanting to have to deal with the potential of another man in the home and not wanting to share that. And so I feel like that's what drives a lot of the conversation of like, nah, I'm not even gonna deal with that. But I feel like if there's a healthy co-parenting relationship between the two, and you're coming in and they already know what it is, they have boundaries set and everything is straight, like, why not? You know what I'm saying? But everybody's different. Absolutely not gonna knock somebody for it. But I wanted to ask, I want to pivot a little bit, bro, because you own a business, right? You're a content creator, you do speaking, you do a lot. And you wear a lot of different hats. And obviously you're the provider of your home, right? But I know as a provider, there can be a lot of pressure and stress that comes with that, right? So I wanted to ask you, how do you navigate that? And I also wanted to talk to you about how you went from teaching to this, because I know you said you wanted to spend more time with your kids and all that kind of stuff. So how did you make that transition? What was that like? And how did you still balance being a father throughout that and the stress that comes with now also being like the provider and like making sure that you're present?
So I would start with saying, in order to pivot into your potential, you have to put yourself out there. So for me, I didn't like social media.
Okay.
Here I am, I'm a content creator. I won BET Most Inspiring Instagram back in 2015.
Love it.
And I didn't even like social media. My first ever social media was in college.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends made me a MySpace. And he's like, yo, bro, it's done. Like, this what you do. And I was like, man, this is stupid. You talking to somebody on the computer. Right. And most of the time they were talking to each other. Like, it was just blowing me away. Like, they're literally right over there.
Right.
I was a bold individual. I'd get up and go talk to the girl.
Right.
Rather than I'm going to type on here like, oh, you look pretty over there or something. Like, I wasn't into that.
Right.
I had never sent the email when I came to college. Like, I was not on the whole wave of what the future was. But big but, I was willing to put myself out there. And I had the MySpace, then Facebook. Then there was a student in my class that told me, Mr. Rivera, you should get an Instagram. And I was like, I don't want that. I already don't like having to log on to different platforms and, post things. I'm like, I'm good. I got the Facebook. I'm good. MySpace died. All I got is Facebook. I'm good. And that student was about 2 years early before I actually got an Instagram. But that young lady, she saw stuff that I didn't see.
Right.
She was telling me without telling me, like, yo, what you're doing in this classroom, the world needs to see. Not just these 25 students every period that you have, because you're doing something that ain't normal. And I was more like, y'all tell them then.
Where?
And there wasn't, really people that were filming in class and sharing. So I was one of the first educators that was bold enough to be filming stuff in my classroom and to be posting things of students doing things. And the reason why I was so bold is because I was teaching at Pitbull School and they had already signed the waiver.
Oh, word.
All of the students had to sign a media release on the first day of school because we had so many things going on at the school. They didn't have time to do a media release right before they accidentally caught a kid in the camera or something.
Right.
So I was pretty much playing that card like, well, if they say they didn't want to be in it and they're on the video, they signed a media release.
That's fire.
Yeah, that's what I kind of played off of. And I positioned myself in such a way that I could go any route with it. I knew I was good at speaking. I knew I was playing sports. At the time, I was still playing arena ball. So I'm like, okay, I can use social media to maybe get me on a better arena team and maybe get me a chance at the NFL. So I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I believe also when someone is trying to pivot to their potential, you gotta take shots. You got to take shots. There were plenty of things that I failed at. I was trying to do. Along the way, and just accidentally I bumped into my purpose. So if you move around enough and you get around enough people, you're going to bump into your purpose eventually. So put yourself out there, develop a plan, get 3 or 4 things that you're good at. Right. And I actually have a purpose finder worksheet that I used to do when I go and speak. And I'll do another post with that eventually. But that's something where I ask like 5 questions to kind of help you figure out what it is that you're really good at. What is your purpose? What could you really do? If you couldn't get paid for it, you would do that all the time. Right. For me, it was speaking. For me, it was social media. And I wasn't getting paid for it. And now that's how I make my money. Right. I speak and I do social media. Those were 2 things that I was doing on the side. I was juggling a job and a dream until the dream became the job.
Take me through what that was like though, like the navigating, juggling both of those, and then also having kids. Did you have kids at the time during that?
Towards the tail end.
Towards the tail end. So how did that look for you, navigating both of those and like making the transition into having, being a full-time entrepreneur with kids? Like what was that process like for you? And like how did you deal with that?
So for me, I developed my plan around my kids.
Okay.
I said I never want to put myself in a situation where I'm always away from my kids because of success. I said I didn't want the spotlight to burn up the ones around me that I want to be there with me.
Right.
So I said, okay, how do I go about this? And I knew that by me being able to use social media, I could still touch my kids. I could cut off the camera and my kids were right there. Then I started bringing my kids into it. So I developed my entrepreneurship around my kids. A lot of the brands that I do social media for, I bring my kids into it. A lot of people think that I get the brand deal because of my kids, but really I bring my kids into it. I shoot everything through the lens of being a Black father. So if a brand comes to me like Oreo and they say, hey, JR, we would love for you to do this post about this new app that we have about the Oreos, and we just want you to be you. Well, me being me is me with my kids. Right. So that's what I give them. Boom, now I'm spending time with my kids and I'm getting this work done and I'm able to provide for my family. So I'm telling my kids and teaching my kids financial literacy, and I'm saying, okay, if you guys want to get this new 4-wheeler, let's do this post together, and we're going to make this amount of money, and we're going to put this part of the money for your 4-wheeler, and we're going to put this part of the money into the stock market, and we're going to put this amount of money up. So navigating in such a fashion where you can accomplish more than one thing was really important to me. Right. I didn't want to just go for this goal. I wanted this goal to pull along these things. So at first, it wasn't lucrative at all. Right. At first, I had to go speak for free. At first, I had to find out what was the story that people wanted from me. So it took a lot of different speaking engagements to get to what it was that I needed to speak about. What did people, really want to get from me? Right. I had to post a lot of videos to figure out, okay, you're talking too loud, or figure out, hey, that's not catchy what you just said. Maybe you should try wearing a different color shirt. Like, I realized all those things were important. And along that path, I got my divorce, and I believe that it was divine timing for me. Okay. Because when I got my divorce, it wasn't because anyone had infidelity or anything like that. My ex-wife felt like we were growing apart. She wanted to do her own thing, and I was like, okay. I tried because I feel like family is very important. Yeah. But at the same time of, like you said, trying to chase entrepreneurship, it became tiring trying to keep a marriage together that didn't want to be together. So I had to say, okay, my kids are important. My goals are important. And you take that person off the pedestal and you put your purpose on the pedestal, which is so important. I think so many people have the wrong thing on the pedestal. Your purpose belongs there, because your purpose is going to bless everything else around it. I'm not talking about your pocketbook. I'm talking about your purpose, not your paycheck, your purpose. So if you're focused on your purpose, it's going to bless everything around it. So for me, I was doing these things, and there was tireless nights where, I would wait until my kids go to sleep. That was my thing. When my kids go to sleep, that's when I'm going to do my reading. That's when I'm going to develop what I'm going to speak about the next day on social media. That's when I develop when I'm going to interact and engage with, my followers and things like that, when my kids are sleeping. So when my kids are put to sleep, I had to make a bedtime of like 8 o'clock. So now I would have from 8 to 10, I would have that window to work.
Right.
And then I would go to sleep somewhere at 10:30, 11, so that I had enough rest to do it all over again the next day. So I don't believe in entrepreneurship, that whole like, I'm just grinding 24/7. Nah, that's not sustainable. There's only so long that you can pull all-nighters and be healthy.
That's true.
So for me, I need to be healthy to show up for my kids and the kids who I was teaching.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to develop a structured time frame where I could chase the dream. So that allowed me to kind of navigate a little bit better. And then it was very important to me to get around good people. And I was very blessed to meet certain entrepreneurs that had already done certain things that I was trying to do. And it was like God was just opening those doors for me to meet the right individuals along the way. Nobody quite just blessed me where I got a platform or certain thing and it was boom, it was instantaneous. But they always gave me something that I needed in that season. And when you understand that every storm runs out of rain and the sun got to shine at some point, then it makes it a little bit sweeter as you're going through the process. So there were those difficult times where I had to turn down speaking engagements because it was my parenting time with my kids, and I don't have any immediate family that live within 100 miles of me. So I can't go do this speaking engagement for $2,000 because I'm parenting right now.
Right.
And I noticed that the no's started to set me up for bigger yeses. It's hard to say no to a $2,000 speaking engagement.
That's a fact.
When I was teaching and my check was like, I don't know, after taxes about $2,000.
Right.
So that was two weeks of work.
Right.
I could go get in an hour, maybe 2 hours. But once I was able to develop the ability to say no, it opened up the doors for those big yeses that were bigger than the $2,000. And I looked around my house one day in 2020. I'll never forget that one. And I told myself, and I didn't have any doubt in my mind that this was going to truly happen. I told myself I'm going to grow my beard out and I'm going to get paid for the products. That has happened. I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to make sure my hair is a certain way. I'm going to make sure this is that, and I'm going to get paid for the products. That has happened. I took all my pain and turned it into prosperity because I was willing to do the work. I had to do my daughter's hair. I don't know how to do no hair. I'm a man.
That's real.
But I worked at being able to put a decent ponytail in my daughter's hair. And that was one of the turning points in my whole financial side of things. I ended up on Good Morning America. Instagram, the real Instagram like page and stuff, they reached out to me. They are the ones that were responsible for putting me on Good Morning America as one of those Black fathers that was, showing up the way that I should in my kid's life. And it was a video that I didn't even really want to do, but I knew I needed to do. And I pushed past the perception of everyone else.
Right.
What is everybody else going to think seeing JR, who used to go crack back 275-pound defensive ends doing hair? And I'm like, that's the vulnerability that you have to get to where you want to be. So I had those vulnerable moments throughout my journey, and I still have them, that allow me to get to the next level. I think you have to have the vulnerability. You have to understand that those storms are going to run out of rain and push through, and then go get the information. When you have the finances, let's say, you know what, I got to sacrifice this $300 to go learn from this person. I did that. And it sped up the process. So I went and got the information from somebody. Shout out to Dr. Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher. That's my guy.
That is so,
I went and got the information
right after this, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the people that I really resonated with. And I talked to him. I said, Malcolm Gladwell says you need 10,000 hours to be a professional at anything. Doctor, preacher, lawyer, speaker, professional athlete, you need 10,000 hours. And I'm like, man, I need some hours. So I went and got information to speed up that process. And we're still cool to this day. And I'm grateful for that connection. And there were other ones along the way of people that most people wouldn't know, but they gave me some real game.
Yeah.
And you got to take your shots. Not everybody that you invest in to get information is good.
Right.
They're not going to always give you great information. But if you do it enough times, good is going to come out of it. And I think that along the journey was what really blessed my journey.
Yeah, nah, man. There's a lot that you said. And like I said, we have a tradition. We're going to let that sit for a little bit because I'm even processing some of the stuff that you just said, bro. There's a lot of alignment that happens with this podcast. I always tell people I never force episodes with anybody. So like I hit guests up and like if somebody's with it, great. If not, cool. If we have an opportunity in the future, we'll do it. But I never force connections with anybody. I never force anything, bro. And it's so crazy. As you're speaking, you're literally speaking, you're talking about getting the information, right? Before the year ended, 2024, right? I'm sitting and I'm thinking to myself, like, I have a little extra bread, right? And I need to do something with this. I need to do something with this. I need to do something with this. Then I seen an ad on Instagram, and I never buy stuff on Instagram ads because I run a business, so I'm always dissecting, like, okay, what are they saying? What kind of copy are they using? What are they trying to do? What's the call to? So I'm always like looking at the sales copy and all these different kinds of things. It ruins the ad for me. But this ad was so up my alley that I was like, damn, like, okay, I should do this. And it was for, I don't know if you know, but there's a conference happening in Atlanta called the Seven Figure Speaker Conference, right? It's happening in a couple of days. Dr. Eric Thomas is going to be there, and Jeremy Anderson, and a couple other speakers, B. Simone, a bunch of folks are going to be there. And I'm looking, I'm like, yo, and my girl's in the bed with me, and she's like, maybe you should do it. These are folks that I grew up. Like when I say you grew up, I literally grew up on Dr. Thomas. Before he was a doctor, he used to be E.T. You know what I'm saying? Like E.T. the hip hop preacher. Like literally, that's in college. That's all I was listening to, bro. Was Eric Thomas. When I used to be stressed out and I'm like, damn, I don't want to do this no more. I'm good. I would play an E.T. video when you want to be successful or when you want it as much as you want to breathe, right? Like I used to play that video all the time, bro. So it's so crazy that you mentioned that because I was like, when you were saying that, the first thing I started thinking about was the conference. And then you said Dr. Eric Thomas. I'm like, oh, nah, bro, there's alignment. And I'm saying that to say, like, I really do feel like as I've had this platform and I built this, the same thing that you mentioned is true. Like, I've never forced connections anywhere, bro. People have opened doors that didn't need to do stuff. People have promoted stuff that didn't need to do stuff. People have reached out and been supportive of the mission that didn't need to do stuff, and everybody at every turn that I've connected with, not everybody, but most people that I've connected with have left me something that I can use to continue to build what it is that I'm building. And I'm saying this to say, full circle, what you said about success leaves clues. If they're listening, right, they'll realize once I get on path to my purpose, what's also going to happen is God will align my steps. So I don't got to walk this by myself. A lot of people are uncomfortable with chasing their purpose because they think they're chasing their purpose alone. You get what I'm saying? You're not doing it alone. When you realize and you have faith, that's why the faith part of it is so important, why I talk about that so much. And we're going to get into that. When you have faith with what it is that you're pursuing, it doesn't become this scary thing anymore because you're like, yo, all I do is fear God and everything else take care of itself, right? All I got to do is just continue to walk and God will lead me. God has my hand. All I got to do is just keep walking. That's it. There's this meme or this cartoon that shows two people. They're both underground digging.
Oh, yeah.
You seen that before? You've probably seen it. Yeah. They're both underground digging, right? One of them has a shovel and he's like turning backwards the other way. The other one is still digging. And it shows that both of them are digging to gold. And so I'm saying that to say, yo, like, for the people that are like thinking about pursuing their purpose and like dealing with I don't really know if I want to keep doing this. All you got to do is keep walking. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just take the next step. All you got to do is hear the next no. There's another thing that I've seen online that really changed my perception when it came to like failure and no, for lack of better words, right? If somebody told you all you needed to do was hear 100 no's to get the one yes that would change your life, how different would you think about no? You'd be asking everybody. You'd be like, yo, I can't wait to get the next no, right? And so I think about that all the time because it's like, yo, that's real life. We don't know the actual number, but in reality, that's how things work. All you got to do is hear enough no's before you get a yes. That's really all you got to do. And the same thing that happened with you with your speaking, where you talked about like, yo, I had to do speaking gigs for free. Bro, I had to do the same thing. I had a business before this from 2017 up until 2020. We didn't make no money, bro. We actually lost money. I would be making merch and stuff, selling merch. And I was so into the cause that I would just donate the money from the merch. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes like we wouldn't even be able to make money off the merch that we were producing. So we just have merch sitting around that we paid for that we can't even sell. Or like I have a car that's like breaking down and I know I have a speaking engagement and I told them I'm gonna be there. So I'm a man of my word. We driving this messed up car with messed up transmission from Boston to New York. Wow. I've literally done that before to my middle school. And so I'm saying all this to say, bro, like you got to understand that what your purpose is not just you chasing it. And this is not for you because obviously you already know, right? But this is for the folks that are listening. Like what your purpose is not just you chasing it, bro. And so I really want people to take that with them and understand like, yo, I don't have to be so afraid of pursuing it because I feel like there's a lot of fear that's around pursuing something that's unknown. Because a lot of us that grow up in the social media era, like our parents didn't do this. We don't know nothing about this. A lot of us don't know anything about building a business, you know, creating websites, LLC, the structure, taxes, all the things that go into it. So that can create a lot of fear. You fear the unknown. Like, what the hell am I going to do when we get to this point? But what you got to realize is just you got to take one step at a time, bro. That's it. That's all I've done throughout this whole entire journey is one step at a time. I didn't have a CPA at one point. I didn't have lawyers. I didn't have website. We all started from something. You get what I'm saying? We all started from something. We all figured it out along the way about like, okay, I do need to talk to a CPA because my taxes situation kind of getting crazy. IRS be hitting me up.
Yeah, you gonna learn one way or another.
You're gonna learn, right? And I used to have people that told me, I used to ask people all the time. When it came to business, I used to ask them like, yo, bro, what's the most important thing that you would have told yourself when you first started your business? And people used to always tell me having a CPA, having an attorney, and like making sure that like their business is structured the right way. And I used to be like, man, what the hell are you talking about? I'm trying to get customers. Like, I'm trying to make money, right? Until I realized like, okay, once you make the money, those are the things that allow you to keep the money and make sure that you have the money structured in a way where you're not losing the money, right? And then once I got to that point, I'm like, damn, like they were right. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying all that to say again, bro, like take one step at a time. Don't be fearful of your purpose and just understand that God is working with you. God is walking with you. You do not need to be afraid of what God has called you to do, right? There's a reason why he's calling you to do it. So you got to trust in him and have faith in what his plan is for your life. And I'm telling you, what you can imagine and what you can envision is just a small fraction of what he has prepared for you, but he can't give it to you until you walk into it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation, bro. You know, I didn't know the conversation was going to point to that direction. But again, that's just alignment, bro. Like that's truly alignment. So I want to ask you too, bro, like when it comes to your faith, because I think that's, again, like we talked about this earlier before we even like had the conversation on a podcast. How did you instill that one in your kids? Why did you have so much belief that, yo, this is what's going to happen? Like, what made you that way?
For me, I've saw both sides of it, man. I've seen when things all go to crap and everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
You get the divorce, you break up the family, all those things happen. And I've saw the side where you get married and everything is good.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I understood that the show must go on, but you have a decision how you interpret the rest of the journey. And for me, the only thing that would allow me to have a positive mindset going through the journey and through the fire is faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because faith is you seeing what's going on and still believing something greater can come out of it. Faith is you being in the dark and believing that some way, somehow you're going to find the light.
Mm.
And I saw the light. So for my kids, I want them to have that same opportunity in life when adversity knocks on their door one day
Mm-hmm.
and it seems dark in their life one day. They have another resource, faith. And they know who the Most High is. They know who the Creator is. And they have a relationship where they can talk to God themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught my kids how to communicate to God, how to pray for themselves early on. That was a part of my plan. And that parenting plan was teaching my kids how to pray. Modeling it, me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We do it together.
Mm-hmm.
You do it. So at night when we pray, I might pray. Then we pray together. Then my son might pray.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next night, same thing, but now my daughter prays. Sometimes I just tell them, you pray.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed them to also be confident. My
Right.
kids are not afraid to go in front of the classroom and speak.
Right.
They're not afraid to be themselves. And that comes from their faith. And I consistently tell my 9-year-old, I'm like, if someone calls you weird for the way that you think and the way that you do things, that's on them. Because a lot of weird people have done some amazing things in this world. And I know that that conversation happens in school early on because I taught for 10 years. And it can disrupt the path of so many great kids. So I'm very cautious on how my kids are developing throughout the journey. And the one thing that helps us speak through those things is when we're praying. My daughter will tell me certain things that she didn't tell me about her day. My son will tell me things that he might be, kind of on the fence of, like, Dad, I got this big test coming up. Can we pray about it? That lets me know that he might need some extra work in that area as well. So I believe that my faith, passing it on to my kids, also allows me to get that foundation even stronger.
Right.
And that connection with them and being able to, be vulnerable in those moments. Because there's times that I pray for their mother. That's my ex-wife. We definitely have our disagreements.
For sure.
But being able to be vulnerable and to also say a little prayer for their mother as well, in our prayers, it allows my kids to see that she's not my enemy. And you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have both. And just helping, heal those things.
Right.
I think that faith allows you to heal a lot of things that you've been through if you give it some time. And I think a lot of people don't like that time side of things. Faith, you got to give it some time.
Yeah, that's a fact, bro. I think a lot of what you talked about has a lot to do with timing. Like, a lot of it has a lot to do with timing. Like you talked about making that decision for your kids and all that kind of stuff. You don't really know if the decision you made is going to pan out until you go through the time. And so what I want to ask you is, like, how are you creating these practices that you have with your kids? And, like, how important is it for you to instill in them, like, the concept of, like, instant versus delayed gratification?
My kids, we got this saying, that's the price of being great. And we'll just keep saying that. There's nothing else to it. We just repeat it back and forth about 5 times after workouts. After we've done something real hard. That's the price of being great. And we've been doing this for years.
Mm.
So my kids understand that in order to be great and have that home run in the game and have that success on your spelling test, I got to get these reps. Reps equal results. And I give my kids that equation and we speak about it. And we talk about it. And I take every opportunity that I get to say, you see that? How do you think that happened? How do you think Deion Sanders became that? He had to get his reps. How do you think Shador Sanders became great at quarterback? He got his reps. Anyone that my kids come to me and they're like, oh, Dad, what about, Michael Jordan? He got his reps. Was he always great? No. No, he didn't make his high school team the first try at varsity. He made JV because he didn't have enough reps. And he refused to ever be in that situation again. And that's why you see your shoes have Jordan on them. And when they get those daily doses of why it takes time, it takes work over a long course of time, it starts to sink into them. They're kids. So it takes a lot of talking to you blue in the face.
Right.
But when you can point to something that they really like and you're like, why do you think that happened? And they can tell you the why. I'm big on that with my kids. Tell me why. So I give the mic to them and now they get a chance to take it in and then they explain. And it always includes time.
Yeah.
It didn't happen instant. So we talk about that a lot. Like it's not going to happen right away. Whether it's learning how to ride a bike, it don't happen right away. Tying your shoe, it don't happen right away. Yeah, that's how I get my kids to understand that they're going to have to wait a little while for the greatness to come.
Yeah, I love that, bro. I love that. So take us through some of your practices, bro, because I feel like we talked a lot about the plan. We've talked a little bit about the practices, but take us through, like, when you have them, like, what is their routine look like? How can someone develop a healthy routine with their kids? And, like, how are you showing them love on a daily basis as a father? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I have this chapter in my book, and it's on time management, and it talks about dead time versus alive time.
Okay.
So the dead time is like, for instance, you're at a red light and you're just chilling. You can't do anything. At least that's what you think. But if you had on this podcast, you would be learning something right now at that red light. So trying to turn the dead time into more alive time.
Right. Okay.
So getting more out of your 24 hours. So when I have my kids, I'm trying to get the most that I can get out of those 24 hours each time. And the way that looks is, okay, once they wake up, if it's the weekend, once they wake up, I give them a choice of how long they want to sleep. And the reason why I can give them that choice is because I know they're not going to sleep in, because early on, I didn't give them that choice. So now they've developed their routine. So you have to challenge your routine, giving them that choice to see if the routine works. So from early on, they were structured. We woke up, we ate our breakfast, said our prayers, we got our push-ups in, and we got our hits. That hasn't changed. So we're still doing those same things. It's the consistency on a daily basis of the get up, brush your teeth, do your routine of getting yourself together, coming downstairs, eating together, say your prayer, saying affirmations in the car, getting your swings in and your hits before we get in the car. So you want to touch your goals every day is what I tell my kids. So if your goal is to be, let's say, a basketball player, but you ain't touched the basketball in 10 days, can't really be your goal. Right. You say you want to be a baseball player, but you ain't touched the bat, you ain't hit a ball, can't really be your goals. You want to be a doctor, but you don't know the information. You can't tell me what suture means. You don't know the vocabulary. So for me, I challenge parents to help their kids learn the vocabulary first. And I know you probably like, But my kid wants to be a football player. Cool, there's vocabulary in that. They need to understand what a halfback is, what a quarterback is. They need to know how many quarters there are in the game. They need to know when they say halftime, what does that mean? They need to know when they say hurry up offense, what does that mean? So there's vocabulary in everything. Whether you want to be a doctor, an athlete, a speaker, even a YouTuber, because there's so many kids that are telling their parents they want to be a YouTuber. You need to let them see what that looks like. Give them the vocabulary. So my kids, they get some vocabulary on what it is that they want to be. They do some routines that help them get better towards that goal. And then after we've done those things, and during the time that we're doing those things, we're having that dad time. So when I'm throwing these balls, and there's a video of mine that went viral back when my son was about 4 or 5 years old, he just was frustrated because he's hit like maybe 40, 50 balls and they're not getting where he wants them to get to. And he just kind of breaks down and he starts sobbing. And I pick him up. It just so happened we were doing a video before that for some money. So I had a camera there just randomly. And the camera was still on, and I picked him up and I was pointing at the balls and I told him, do you know what that is? That's work. That's greatness. One day when you hit a home run, you're going to remember that you did this with your dad. This is what it took. And we had that little moment, and I knew that he didn't need me to yell at him like, come on, you hit the ball harder, do this, do that, or fix his technique. He didn't need that in that moment. He needed me to be dad.
Right.
So I picked him up, changed his perspective, and allowed him to see what I saw. And then we went back to it. And now he's hitting that ball pretty far. So, you know, that's pretty much what a day looks like, and just, you know, trying to help them navigate what they need to eat and put into their body so that they can perform at optimal levels. My kids, they have this thing that, can we get a dessert after? Well, we don't do dairy, so they're not getting all of that stuff that, you know, they're not supposed to. And I'm getting them, you know, my daughter eats a mango popsicle. That's her dessert. You know, my son, he's eating these mint chocolate chip coconut bars. I don't know what that is, but he likes it.
Right.
So, you know, you have to give a little to get a lot throughout the day. You have to pick your battles.
Right.
Sometimes you got to let them do certain things a certain way, and other times you got to pull the reins back in. So it's a push and pull throughout the day, but it's also non-negotiable for them not to get the reps.
Right. I love it, bro. What does showing love look like for you? Like, how do you try to create intentional space for that?
So for me, it usually happens when I'm in my downtime, where I'm laying on the couch or something. My son, even though he's 9, he'll still come and lay on me. That's his way of, you know, just spending time, showing love to dad. But my kids hug me all the time. Sometimes they got my arms. I'm like, yo, let me go. Let me hug you back. But it starts early in the morning. First thing they want to do, we hug each other, give each other a kiss. I do that in public. And I remember there was an older woman, Black woman, and she said, don't ever stop doing that. And I was like, what? Because I'm so used to like my kids showing me love, especially my son. And she was like, don't ever stop doing that with your son. It always happens with the daughters, the daddy-daughter thing. But she was like, always show your son love too. And I took heed to that. I'm like, be cognizant of showing him love. So I almost overdo it with him sometimes. And my daughter's like, yo, I'm here too. Like, let me get some of that. So she'll come and lay on me too. Now I got two on me, and then the baby comes. And so, you know, that's how that kind of looks. And just spending time doing things that they like. Me and him playing a video game together. Me and my daughter, pretending to order food, and she's making food with her little fake foods and stuff. And, you know, she made me this bracelet right here, this little bracelet that I got on. You know, she made that for me. And that's just her showing her love. That's her sign of, you know, Dad, I really appreciate you and I love you. I made this for you.
Mm.
And me wearing it, showing that, that it means something to me as well.
Yeah, no, I love that, bro. Man, this has been dope, bro. I feel like there's been so much knowledge and wisdom dropped, bro. So I really appreciate you. One of the things, like, we're going to make that a tradition for this year and moving forward when we do the podcast towards the end, is asking the guest, which will be you in this instance, what would you say to a Black man right now that's struggling, trying to figure out what he needs to do? It could be in the context of, being a dad, or it could be just struggling in general. What are some things that you feel like he needs to hear?
Well, I'm going to attack it in the aspect of a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, even if you don't have the financial resources right now, show up. Show up. Even if that mother is in the way of you seeing your child, take a day off, go to their school, go see them.
Mm-hmm.
If your kids do sports, coach them, spend quality time with them. That's what you have for them. And that's going to do the most for them. Being able to buy them a pair of Jordans versus being able to join them for their field day or their award ceremony, or being able to do homework with them, they don't even compare. They don't even compare. Now, of course, if you're that father and you're struggling, let's say, to pay the rent, you got to get in your grind mode. You got to figure out, okay, I'm struggling to pay this rent, but I'm steady buying Jordans. I'm steady going to the club, or I got this habit. I like to drink, or I got all of these shirts, or I like to go to the clubs, or maybe you struggling because you haven't upped your knowledge game. You can get some of that information that we talked about. The next time you have some extra money, or you even have a little bit of money, put it towards bettering yourself. Bet on yourself. That's what I would tell that father. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself.
Man.
When I say that, I mean, go all in for what it is that you know you're supposed to do. A lot of us know what we should be doing, but because we got this job, we're not going after that. You got to figure out how to do both. You have to figure it out. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Nobody is coming to save you. You got a savior if you believe like I believe. And then it's time for you to strap up your boots and go make it happen. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Those kids can't eat your excuses for lunch. You got to make a plan, and then you got to go after it. Start reading. Go to the library. You'll bump into somebody. Put yourself in different environments. Instead of trying to gather up enough money to make it to the club, or your homeboys being able to spot you so you can go to the club, go to the library. It's free. Go gather some information. Introduce yourself to 5 people every day. If you introduce yourself to 5 people every day, I guarantee you somebody along that way is going to tell you something, give you something, or put you into a position where you can better your life and your kids' life.
Man, that's real practical. I love practical advice, bro. I love actual things that people can do and apply, bro. So listen, man. Damn, man, I love it, bro. Please tell the people where they can find you, anything that you got that you're promoting, how they can support your social media, all that, bro.
For me, you can find me with my name is just JR Rivera on every platform. You'll see, obviously, my face on there. I love the support, y'all, liking, commenting, sharing the information to other dads or other families that might need to see it or might need to get a laugh, because we do some funny stuff on the channel as well. And then if you a person that's struggling with time management, or you need a purposeful plan for your day, check out my book. You can find that on Amazon, and it's pretty simple. It's What's Eating Up Your Time, the Full 24.
That's the name of the book, What's Eating Up Your Time, the Full 24. Go get that. Go follow JR, man. JR, appreciate you, bro.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you are planning an event, or you are part of your organization's Black employee group, and you are interested in having dope Black mental health professionals or myself come in and do a speaking engagement or a workshop or a keynote address or a panel, please click the link in our bio on Instagram or TikTok. Scroll down and click book us for speaking and brand deals and fill out the form available on our website. Once you fill out the form, one of our team members will get back to you about how we can collaborate and create something dope for your organization. This is an unparalleled opportunity. We are currently the largest Black men's mental health platform, and we have a few slots available for our calendar year, and we would love to partner with you to create something dope for your organization if it makes sense for both parties, right? So go to the link in our bio, scroll down, click book us for speaking and brand deals, and fill out that form. If you're not on Instagram, the link should be linked in our description of this episode. And it is also on our website. If you go to expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. That's expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. If you are looking for a therapist, a Black therapist, and you've had a hard time finding one, you've jumped from therapist to therapist, or you just don't know how to find a therapist, we are teaching a free webinar. It's completely free, taking you from not knowing how to find a therapist, not knowing where to search for therapists, struggling with finding good therapists for you, not knowing what to look for in therapists, teaching you all of those different things, and also giving you the opportunity at the end of the webinar to be connected with one of our safe haven healers who are Black mental health professionals, so that you do not have to go through the struggles of finding a Black therapist alone anymore, right? So if you're interested in that, you want to get connected with a Black mental health professional at the end of the webinar, or you just want to learn how to find a Black therapist by yourself, you can sign up for the free webinar. It's linked in our bio on Instagram and TikTok. You just click that free webinar link once you click the link in our bio and fill out the form. You can also find it on our website at expressyourselfblackman.com/links and fill out the form there for our next webinar session. If you're not interested in any of that, right, but you know someone that may be interested in it, all we ask is that you please share it. If you want some of the merch that we show on the platform all the time, that we're wearing on the platform all the time, you can shop it at shop.expressyourselfblackman.com. And once again, we just want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you so much for supporting us. Please, if you are on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, comment. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, please leave a review. It helps us out greatly. Thank you so much for your support. We're wishing you nothing but the best and sending you and your family and your loved ones love and light. Peace.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. Shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.